Welcome to Lead for Good, a podcast for nonprofit leaders of all titles and all experience levels. This is a show where the audience will meet and get to know top nonprofit leaders. Together, we will take a deep dive into nonprofit leadership, endeavoring to uncover and unpack the most important characteristics, traits, strategies, and actions of successful nonprofit leaders. Through this journey together, we desire to help you, the nonprofit leader, grow your knowledge and capabilities to lead for good. We want you to achieve your full potential as leaders in the sector. So, welcome to the conversation. We're glad you joined us today. Without further delay, let's join our host, Chris Looney, as he interviews yet another extraordinary leader who is truly leading for good. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Lead for Good, the podcast that explores what is truly important and meaningful in terms of leading with purpose, resilience, and impact in the nonprofit sector. I'm your host, Chris Looney, and today's conversation is one that I think will resonate deeply with so many leaders and fundraisers across our field. We're talking about what it means to feel stuck, and more importantly, how to get unstuck. How do we renew our sense of purpose? How do we rebuild our energy and find resolve to recommit to the work that matters so much? And joining us today is someone who has spent a career thinking about leadership, purpose, and impact in deeply practical and human ways. So welcome to the show, John. We're so glad to have you with us.
Nice to be with you, Chris, as always. Thank you.
You bet. And thank you for spending some time to share your expertise and experience and wisdom with us. You've had an extraordinary career across philanthropy, leadership, social impact. One of the few people that continually reminds me that it's the for purpose sector, not the nonprofit sector, which I absolutely love. You had time with the California Community Foundation, ongoing work helping individuals and organizations reconnect with purpose through your writing, through your coaching. You have a book out called Quest, which is just a fascinating journey. And I know we're going to get into all of it, which is great. But in order to kind of get us started in a more natural way, I'd love to kind of hear from you about how you became the leader you are today.
Yeah, it's a very simple question. But let me just say first, Chris, thank you for your leadership and doing what you do, and for Fulcrum and for the various podcasts you're doing, but also trying to help leaders think about different ways to lead well. I've always been a fan of yours in the community and in the marketplace, but I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
I grew up in Silicon Valley, and my parents are Japanese American parents, and they were trying to figure out how to be better Americans and coming out of the internment camps. And one of the things I learned from them right away was community service. I learned that we needed to be of service to the community of people that had lesser means, where had more challenging circumstances. My parents were part of a group of families that didn't form a nonprofit because they knew better than to form a nonprofit. They just put money together, and they actually bought a house and a truck and a van, and they found low-income seniors that were in the community to bring them to a house as a community center in the community. So they didn't want to go to another place. They formed their own place. We were volunteers. So I was a volunteer there when I was a young person. And so I learned the values of service from my parents, from my mother in particular. And that got me involved in a variety of things, not the least of which was the YMCA. I became a counselor in the YMCA, and on and on and on. But it was their values and their role models that helped me launch a career of service.
It's amazing. And so they were probably the first mentors you had, your parents, right? To help you shape kind of your leadership philosophy. Have there been others along the way? You've had a pretty awesome career in nonprofit leadership. And so there's probably several people that have influenced the way you think about the world.
So many. Some of them would be unofficial mentors, and some would be very official mentors. I think if I would have had a panel of mentors right here and said, "Let me introduce you to my mentors," they would say, "What? I've never mentored you. You're not even mentorable." But I've looked to people. I've sought their advice. I've sought their counsel. Some of them more consistently, others not so much. I think of if you want names, I'm not sure if you want names, but
Whatever
there's
you're comfortable with.
one person I was thinking of in particular. I gravitated to better leaders who I thought had some kind of alignment with me. And whether I worked for them or I worked around them or I just asked them how I could be of service. One in particular I had met in graduate school is a guy named Bruce Corwin, who's no longer with us. Bruce
Oh my God.
Corwin was one of the most extraordinary leaders. His father was Cheryl Corwin, who started the Children's Museum. And Bruce and his family owned movie theaters, but Bruce was somebody who was a family man. He was involved with nonprofits. He was a donor. He was involved with politics. He would gather people into a room and help them understand why fundraising was important. But he did it with kindness. He did it with compassion. He did it with a smile on his face, and he always made it fun. And I wanted to be around Bruce, and Bruce and I did many, many things. I was very fortunate to know his family, and uh, one of the boards that I chair today is one he recruited me on, which is the MLK Community
I had no
Hospital Foundation
idea.
Board.
Amazing.
He was the one who called and said, "John, you got to be on this board." And I didn't even know what board it was. I said, "Yes, sir," because I was fully aligned with him, and he was so gracious in teaching me so many different things.
Yeah, well, we share a strange connection to Bruce. Worked with him through a synagogue way back in the day,
Mm.
and I think he's a Baruch College grad and had some deep
Well,
roots.
Wesleyan. He's actually Wesleyan.
Interesting.
He
Okay.
went to Wesleyan. Yeah, yeah.
Got it. Interesting. I'll have to figure out what the Baruch connection is, because it was a project that my
Mm,
firm at the time worked on many, 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 many years ago. But he was a legend in LA philanthropy for sure. So
very
thank
much.
you for sharing that, and you did such a wonderful job to honor him in that way. Um, I'd love to know how you think about leadership. Is there a particular philosophy that you have around nonprofit leadership or just more broadly leadership in general?
Yeah, it's a funny word because it conjures up a lot of images and almost cartoonish things. Some stereotypes and attributes that are more, a hero or savior kind of things. And I've used that word less frequently in the current context. I've tried to be a leader. I've taken leadership courses. I've taught leadership courses. The way I think about leadership is so different than I did when I was in my 30s and 40s, and certainly even into my 50s. Uh, is really about the proximity to reality. It's not so much, are you smart enough? Do you know what you're doing? Are you have expertise? Are you a subject matter expert? Can you, you know, rattle off a bunch of facts and figures, and can you compel us, inspire us to do something? All that's important, but it is the proximity to the work, the people, not just the people that are being served, the customers or the grantees or the nonprofit beneficiaries, but the staff, the board, the donors, the proximity, and getting off whatever high horse you have to get off that horse and to be on the ground with those constituencies that have different needs and different interests. And once you do that proximity thing, it changes the story you had in your head about how that constituency works or what they need or how you will fix them or what you're supposed to be doing with them. And once that story gets changed in your head, it makes you uncomfortable because it's different than what you thought it was. And that discomfort actually is one of the most fascinating things, Chris. It leads you to hope because now you go, oh, shoot, I was wrong. I'm wrong a lot. Uh, and I'm willing to be wrong. And now I understand something about these donors, about this board member, about my staff, but about the community in general. And so proximity has been something I've had to learn. Gosh, it's so hard. I thought I had to be all things to all people and just be on my toes and ready to be able to inspire. It's a very superficial form of leadership, in my opinion. And so it's taken me a long time to get to that point.
No, I love it. I don't find many people talking about proximity to stakeholders, constituents, and yet I think Well, why is that? Because it's so important and so necessary. So thanks for bringing that concept forward. I think that's going to be truly helpful to so many listeners out there that are um, trying to be better practitioners of their own journey, whether you call it leadership or something else. So it's awesome. Excited now to kind of jump into this topic we've chosen, and it's one that you are very familiar with, not in the sense because you're always getting stuck. I had to be careful there, but because you've seen it, you've counseled other leaders about it. You've really dissected it, you've really examined it, and you've come up with some wonderful thinking around it and practices around it. And I've seen this in our sector where the most committed leaders even get to a point where they feel stuck, disconnected, or even depleted. And so, just to level set, I'd love to know from your perspective what you think about leaders feeling stuck. What does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah. No, I have been stuck many times. So I have actual
All right, I didn't want to assume. I didn't want to assume.
empirical data and experiences that actually inform my thoughts about this. But I want to go back to just the notion of proximity a little bit. It's sometimes this distance and this certainty that we have about certain things from a distance um, will cause us to get stuck. Because that certainty has a story and it's has a narrative that we follow. And when that story doesn't work anymore because we don't haven't updated it with the reality that exists, we get stuck because of that narrow-mindedness or that limitation on our thinking. I just read a quote, and there's a whole thing about predictive analytics now and companies that do this and all this stuff. But there's a quote that from a neuroscientist I just read today, which is predictive certainty is a coma. Meaning, if you want absolute certainty, you're kind of dead because that's the most certain thing. Because life is not, it's always changing. The world is always changing, and we're not in touch with how it's always changing. So,
Hmm.
I always like to start with this to relate to somebody younger because everybody goes, "Oh, when you're younger, yes, I know about being stuck when you're younger," and it's the greatest thing about the dilemma that a freshman has in college to choose a major because they want to please everybody. They want to please their parents. They want to get a good job. They want to have make a lot of money. They want to be successful. They have a lot of ideas what it is. So they get stuck in making the choice they kind of want, but really want to please other people. And this is where stuckness, and that stuckness is a word, uh, really manifests itself, is the duality of self uh, ingratiation and helping other people love you and being pleasing to other people. So this freshman, this 18-year-old, 19-year-old, or whatever age they are now, their average age is actually closer to 29 now of a freshman. But when you're talking to community colleges, but that individual is trying to make a commitment to something that sounds crazy. I have to pick something that the rest of my life I'm going to do, which we all know is not true. So in making choices about careers, life, things are happening in our lives, in our careers, and they throw us to a point of pivot or a detour or a cliff, as Jim Collins just said in his new book. We get to this point, we go, oh my God, this is not where thought I was going to be, and this is different. And now I feel stuck because I didn't expect this surprise, this unexpected thing that's happening to me. And it's what's interesting in the literature today, a lot of talk about resilience, a lot of talk about adaptability. All those are important things,
Right.
self-care. But adaptability and resilience to a world and a system that's broken for you, that double down, get more energy. If you got more sleep, you just need to kind of rest so you do more. And doing more of the same thing where you're stuck is not going to help you get unstuck. So
Yeah.
adaptability and resilience for a person who is stuck, which by the way, most of us get stuck and we get stuck, little stuck, big stuck, huge stuck. So in leadership, going back to our topic, fundraising goes on a downturn, challenging today in this environment, crazy. My board is making me crazy. My board chair is making me crazy. I have a staff person, blah, blah, blah. All these things derail you from your expectations and your strategy and your plans and how you're being measured for success. And that gets you stuck. So there's different levels and dimensions and phases of being stuck. It's natural. So one of the things is being stuck is part of what life is. So once you have embrace it instead of, my God, this is unfair, I'm a victim. What's a quote my sister was saying to me the other day is when bad things happen to you, it's not because you're bad, it's because you deserve more. When you don't get enough, you really deserve more. And this is just a moment that says, oops, this is a test about how you get to the next place. And it's not just a mindset and a perspective. It's about trying to accept reality. And this circles
Mhm.
back to proximity, which is reality, whatever is really happening in the world, whatever is really happening to your organization, to your constituent, to your community, is where you need to be present. It's what you would do with your family. If something happened to your family, you're not going to say, well, come on, I can't, I didn't expect this. And so therefore I'm going to not, I'm going to deny it or something. You're going to
Mhm.
move into that moment to address that more directly. And that's what life happens is these moments of unexpected surprises and challenges that disrupt your plans is what really causes stuckness more than anything else. There's an internal thing we can talk about, but the external factors, that's really what the main issue is.
Yeah, yeah. And have you landed on the most common causes of that feeling in the nonprofit world for leaders, whether it's executive leadership or fundraising leadership or anything like
Yeah,
that?
I mean, to put it very more directly about nonprofit leaders, um, it happens a lot with fundraising because you budgeted another 10% this year, and that foundation is always giving me 100,000. They're going to give me $100,000, and they don't. They call you up and they say nope. And what happens is it messes up. Like, oh, I have to go back, and that was going to be good. All that was good, and so I hate fundraising. I don't want to do fundraising, and so it generates all kinds of regrets and negativity in your life. And that maybe some people think of not, oh, that's not being stuck. That's just life. It is life. But it starts to go, I was trying to do the strategy and now the funding. I got to do the funding and then I want to do the strategy. I got these other problems. I'm juggling all these different things, which is what nonprofit leaders do. Our titles are jokes. President and CEO is also, chief everything that needs to be done in the work.
Right.
And so as you move around and you change hats, um, the causes are these unexpected cliffs that are going to happen, and you cannot expect any of the metrics of your existence to just continue in a way that it had before.
Hmm. And when there is this stuckness, do people remain stuck because they don't have a solution for themselves to get unstuck, or is it they're not putting enough gas on the wheel to make it go around? They're not, there's a bunch of analogies that you can kind of develop to explain this, but I was just wondering, like in that scenario where you feel stuck because um, circumstances have changed. There's a cliff. You don't want to necessarily go back and do the thing that you have to do. I wonder from your perspective, like how do you get unstuck from that? Like what's and I know
So
that's
this goes to a deeper thing. I'm kind of slightly avoiding it because I think it confuses some people. But people got vast majority of people that get into nonprofit leadership have an alignment of purpose. They really are interested in the mission. They think that generates energy and engagement to them, a sense of fulfillment. But as they climb the ladder of that nonprofit, or they get there for a number of years, they start believing that they should be doing less of something and more of something else. And this expectation, which may have been shared with others, the board may understand that, the new board, the new staff, doesn't didn't fully wasn't fully apprised on your
Hmm.
expectations on how your portfolio of work should be. And so this is an individual stuckness that happens. So I want to raise money, or I want to only raise money. That's what I want to do. I want to be a rainmaker. I don't want to be a rainmaker. I want to run the operations and really make it work, whatever that is. These expectations that are escalating on the trajectory of the organization create stuckness because nobody's aligned with that particular thing. So you have your individual thing is happening. And this goes back to, am I in the right place? I don't mean to quote Jim Collins, but I just finished this book.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Great.
and he says, are you still in frame? That's his thing. Are you still aligned with what you're doing? You're different. You're growing. You've seen things. You've been there X number of years. Are you still aligned? And of course I am. I love this work. Okay, do you? In the way it is right now? Oh, well, no, in the way it's going to be. Oh, okay, well, now you're stuck because now this expectation and reality has been separated. I keep repeating myself, and I don't mean to, Chris, but this duality internally for a leader who has not been transparent about this duality to the people that need to know. And therefore, the structure
Hmm.
has not been changed both organizationally in terms of division of responsibilities. And the board goes, oh, I thought everything was good. I mean, I thought you were fine. I mean, it seems like
Yeah.
we're fine, don't you? And the board member who doesn't know how to review people, and the board member who goes to all those things, the pendulum swings back and forth. So when I think about individual stuckness, um, beyond the organization's drifting, mission drifting off, beyond financial ruin, and a million other things, it's usually this set of internal expectations, um, and hoping that the evolution of the organization and the context will accommodate their needs.
Hmm.
And it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, no, it's so good, and I appreciate you reiterating that point. I'm wondering if being stuck is something to avoid, or is it actually part of the leadership journey?
Yeah, I'm a golfer, and you say, well, I want to avoid the sand traps. I got to avoid the sand traps, and I got to avoid the water. I got to avoid out of bounds. And you start. It's a very negative thinking. Now, all you're doing is trying to not do things, and when you're
Hmm.
trying to not do things, then you become negative, and it actually is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So once you say, I got to stop being stuck. I got to get out of the stuck thing. I don't want to be stuck anymore. You will be stuck all the time because you're obsessed with stuckness.
Wow.
And so and actually you start seeing stuckness in everything that is. So what you have to say is the world is changing. I don't have any certainty. That's fascinating. It's as easy to say, right? It's easy to say, but it is really what happens when you have a child, right? We can always relate this to parenting. My child will, be a straight A student and do this and go to Princeton, right? And graduate with honors. And but okay, well, there's a few things that have to happen. Not the least of which is your child has to be a full ongoing participant in your dreams and living through you, which not
Right.
not good parenting in my opinion. But so what happens is this individual who's well beyond being parented has been, as my words in my book, has been domesticated by their own set of expectations, and that the lack of connection to what's actually happening to this idea of what should be creates a lot of things. And part of that can be financial compensation. Like I don't think I don't have the title. There's all these other things that are kind of manifestations of that. Like I really thought I'd be making $200,000 a year. Well, nobody in your job has ever made $200,000, but so maybe you need a different job. I mean, you're not going to make $200,000 here. That's not going to happen because that's how much you need to raise your family. So well, that's not fair. It isn't. It isn't. But it's kind of reality. I mean, you know how much money they're raising, all these things. You hear these attributes or these dimensions of stuckness, and there are all these different things. If it's not because if purpose isn't if purpose is the stuckness thing, like I don't believe in this mission anymore. Well, pull the ripcord, you know, move. You got to
Yeah.
just get your running shoes on, get your resume and your LinkedIn profile updated
Yeah.
because
Yeah. This
it's
is
time for you to
amazing.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of different stuckness on a lot of different levels. Sometimes you need to get yourself unstuck by sticking with it and having different expectations and changing some of the ways, maybe getting closer to it, proximity and all that. And other times you need to pull the ripcord. And so there's just a variety. And be sure not to always focus on the stuckness because then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you've laid out some
Yeah.
amazing.
And to that point, I would just say, just to underline it is, yeah, it's stuckness or being stuck or Marcus Aurelius said it the best. Says the obstacle is the way. Once you see the obstacle, that is where you go. You don't avoid it. If you have a bad board chair, you go, don't want to talk to the chair. I
The
don't like it.
obstacle is the way.
That's Marcus Aurelius from, 2000 years ago. So so stuckness is an obstacle, and so you have to address the stuckness. It's not about bluntness or being harsh. It's about just full attention.
Yeah.
Don't avoid it. Passive aggressive, not working.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. Yeah, I suppose the way I was thinking about it is sometimes to get to the other side of the moon, you have to kind of go straight at it, get stuck in its gravitational pull so that it can pull you around it and past it, right?
Exactly.
You don't go all the way around it because then you won't actually get to Mars. You'll have to actually go through the
I
stuckness.
had a tour of JPL many years ago, 25 years ago, and was with some engineers that were there, some really brainiacs that were doing some crazy stuff, rocket scientists, real rocket scientists.
Yeah.
And they brought out a 6 foot um, stack of computer paper, the ones with that the whole dot matrix, the dot matrix
Sure, sure,
print
yeah.
out, the very large ones, but it was 6 foot high. And he goes, do you want to know what this is? And I go, yeah, what is it? He goes, well, this was the first shuttle's launch trajectory. And I said, really? That documented the entire launch trajectory. Yes. Um, and a launch, it looks like this. I mean, when you look at it, it's
Yeah,
just gone. It's
straight
over.
up.
But reality, it's really like this.
What?
This has 1,300 course corrections for the shuttle because it was going the wrong direction. So there was 1,300 course corrections because it was actually going like this. But from afar, it looks
Yeah,
like that. So
yeah,
we're always going like this. But from
right.
afar, some people go, wow, you really look like you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're not seeing the fluttering. Yeah, that's good. That's so good. Well, I want to make sure that we leave time for thinking about purpose and actively kind of rediscovering that purpose. And you've spent a lot of time thinking about this, so let's jump into it. When someone feels kind of disconnected from their purpose, where do they begin to find it again?
I go back to the analogy with freshmen. And of course, an 18-year-old or 19-year-old hasn't really, even their plasticity of their brain hasn't fully developed. But the idea that what is resonating with you as a young person, as a person who's in their career? What is resonating with you in terms of things that get you energized? I could use the passion word, but people get really, you know, indifferent about the passion. It's very hard for them to think about things they're passionate about. But what is energizing you right now in your life? And besides your family and some, those kinds of things, I mean, really in terms of work, in terms of investing yourself. And because we could say, do you want to help people? Yes, I want to help people. Do you want to make a difference in the world? Yes, I want to. Those are not purposes. Those are just generic thoughts. So, how do we start to rethink how we define purpose for your life? That's not generic, kind of empty words that say, you know, uh, I want to make things. I heard that this one donor told me, I want to make things more efficient. That's my purpose. I go, okay, well, that could be anything we want it to be. And that's not good because we want to be more narrow about it. We want it to resonate inside. So if it's within the scope of a mission, you say, I love this mission, but I kind of have lost some of my purpose as it relates to this mission. Okay, that's a different kind of conversation because we're inside of this mission. But if we're saying, I've lost purpose, I don't have a sense of purpose outside of, my family to grow, do those kinds of things. Then it is a process, whether you're at some new threshold, you're going to go your retirement, there's some critical date, you just got your degree. You have to go on this journey of examining what things actually connect with you. It is actually, whether you want to talk about a shopping spree of kind of experience, go talk to other people who are doing things. You can't feel it from the screen. You can't just do an internet search on it. It's not a video game. So your sense of purpose will not be found. It's going to come from within you, but it's going to be connected to something else. It goes back to proximity. Things that interest you, things that resonate with you, let's go see them. Let's go talk to those people. And let's find out within a context or outside of a context in the universe, what's resonating with you. And I know that's confusing to some people because it sounds like, my God, that you're just opening up the entire library. But yeah, that's so cool. The whole library, you've been in a corner of the library and it's not good anymore. So let's get into the whole library and be free to start thinking about things again, driven by your own internal, what Jim Collins calls encoding, but your essence, what's inside of you. And you have to trust yourself. This goes back to the internal inner workings of an individual. I've talked to people at every transition of their lives, Chris, in terms of my coaching practice, getting their degree, being laid off, going from another into an industry and going into retirement. And all those things is being a freshman again. It's being a newbie, it's being a beginner's mind and saying, how can I use what I have, but also open myself up to what is possible?
Yeah, I love that. So clearly, there's a lot of reflection that's necessary in that process. And in the work that you did to write the book Quest, I'm sure you saw circumstances where people discovered things about themselves when they slowed down, when they asked deeper questions. Um, Tell me a little bit about how someone goes on, sort of that kind of journey of discovery.
Yeah, and the book Quest, which we're donating all the revenue to philanthropy, and all the IP has been donated to the community. So it's self-promotional, but I don't benefit from it from a financial standpoint. But we have 121 questions in Quest, existential questions, and the two authors, Christina Gallegos and I, we answer the questions. We give you a thought to prompt your thought. And then we had youth, 7-year-old to 19-year-olds, also answer all the questions. So if you're older than 7, you have somebody you can look and go, my God, the 7-year-old answered the question. Maybe I could answer the question. And there's a blank page after every question that says, write your thoughts down. So the act of writing is very powerful. Typing, also good, but actually writing by hand your thoughts has been tied to a lot of things. There's a recent study from Japan about life expectancy going longer for people that have been writing and all these other things. But it is the way you can learn, by writing. And when someone says, what is your purpose, which is one of the questions, or what is your greatest fear, or what do you expect after death? These are 3 other questions. What is enough? What is success? 2 more questions. You go, well, I know, but when you write it down and you free flow it a little bit, things will happen there that you didn't expect. And so we have people. I don't know if I ever told you this, Chris, but the Pentagon asked me to come and present this book. I had 350 people from the Pentagon that we did on a virtual session. We've had people from all over the country and all over the world do book clubs and things, writing together, grandparents and grandchildren, all kinds of things to not to get the right answer, but to articulate and to share and to think through, what do I really want and who am I?
It's great. Well, what are the right questions leaders should be asking themselves in these moments that we've been talking about?
Yeah, some of these things we've talked about. I mean, specifically, um, I think what is impact, right? Because this idea of scaling and growth and the expectations of scaling and growth are really important. But could we go deeper instead of bigger? I mean, that's not a known answer. Um, and the other question that comes up a lot for me is legacy. And everything we do, right? Even if we make huge differences in what's going on, the metrics and the fundraising, it will all be part of the impermanence of this work. We're trying to help leaders that we'll never meet, we'll never know in some future
Mm.
time that won't remember Carl Looney. Remember Carl who did Fulcrum? Carl Looney, he was the greatest. Carl, what a nice guy, Carl. They're not going to remember your name. And it does so legacy, that's ego. Um, these are questions like I'm going to invest the best I can into this work to make the campsite better than I found it, and I'm going to make an impact. And that impact isn't growth and scaling necessarily. Growth and scaling are good, but the actual impact of the work, not only to the beneficiaries of the work, like the needy people and the people suffering, but to the staff and to the board and to the donors. One of the groups forgotten, you and I would agree on this very easily, is people that support such great work that we care about for these leaders, the people that write checks and who show up all the time to make sure that the lights are on and the dental benefits are paid and that it's empowered to do the work. Those people are less cared for. The stewardship of those people is less cared for. And shouldn't we spend more time on that? And everybody says, yeah, 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 but we got to have impact. Well, that is part of your impact. Helping those donors understand the benefits of a really good nonprofit so they're more philanthropic, so they become a role model for other donors is a lost part of this equation. And yeah, the board members aren't going to necessarily go, yeah, and therefore you could make more money. Um, so I think the questions are, what is impact?
I
And
love it.
what is your legacy?
Yeah. Well, those are important, and I hope every listener answers that to the best of their ability from hearing this podcast. So let's talk a little bit about the difference maybe between purpose on the one hand and sustaining the energy and resolve to act, which is another challenge entirely, I believe. So once someone kind of reconnects with purpose, how do they begin to rebuild their energy in a meaningful way?
Yeah, I mean, again, as I started off at the beginning of this, I think um, you know, getting your sabbatical after 10 years, so that you can rest after 10 years, so that you can go to the next 10 years. I mean, what kind of pit stop is that as it relates to the realities of what is broken or challenged in your own body and mind? So the current system is not set up to do full renewal and re-energizing. Vacations aren't long enough. They're not really vacations anymore. Nobody really takes a full vacation. Even the adventure vacations they're taking, they need a rest from their vacation. So all that is a broken set of assumptions. Purpose itself. So how do you, again, I really believe this is true because when flow happens, when you've lost time because you're just going into work. I used to love when young people would say to me, "Oh my God, it's Friday," and I go, what does that mean?" And they go, "Well, we're not working anymore." And I go, "Yeah, you are, because we have stuff due Monday." No, but we're not working on, just like we have these. Not that we should have boundaries and all that kind of stuff, but when you're in flow, when you are engaged, you don't stop thinking about it. It's like an artist who wants to finish the art. They're
Yeah,
just obsessed. And it doesn't mean they're a workaholic. It means you're engaged. And so
yeah,
purpose matters. So it's not disconnected from this notion of sustainability. That proximity of going to see the kids that you're serving, who you haven't talked to because you haven't had time to go out to the center in the valley for 10 years, 5 years. You haven't even been there for 5 years, and to go meet the kids and sit down with the moms is a renewing moment to go, oh, shoot, this
Mm,
is why I'm doing this. So
yeah.
purpose actually is an engine for the resilience and for the sustainability, but it's not taking more breaks. You should take breaks. It's not more vacation. Take vacation. But what are you doing in addition to those things in your portfolio of life that is giving you a moment to write your thoughts, to reflect, to be still for a little bit? Are you doing that on a
Yeah.
daily basis, a weekly basis? What is your discipline to settle yourself and let the noise in your mind subside so that what can arise can be, oh, yeah, that's what's important, not all this stuff. What's
Yeah.
important? And then yeah, it's making a list. People say, why make a list every day? Well, yes, but first you should be calm and then you should make the list, not, it's the ability. I talk about the Santa Barbara Northern Railroad. This is one of my stupid things I do. And then we go, John, there is no such thing as the Santa Barbara Northern Railroad. No, SBNRR is stop, breathe, notice, reflect, and then respond. And if that just took
Mm,
30
it's great.
seconds for every email you wrote, for every moment of stress you had before you talked to an employee or your child, if you stopped and had a little breath and noticed and reflected and responded, you would be more sustained because you'd go, oh, yeah, yeah, okay, I'm not doing that because that would just make it worse. And making it worse is actually the most de-energizing thing you can do. And we do this to ourselves so often.
Yeah, that was great. Can you repeat the railroad analogy
Santa
again?
Barbara,
Uh-huh,
Northern
Santa Barbara.
Railroad,
Okay.
SBNRR,
Santa
stop,
Barbara Northern Railroad. Stop. Okay.
breathe,
Breathe.
notice,
Notice. Okay.
reflect,
Reflect. Okay.
and respond.
Respond. Yeah, that's great. It's a really helpful framework to practice, and I'm sure it will be helpful when I practice it sometime this week or next in my first attempt. But what you said resonated with me because I can recall feeling that ability to sort of distance myself from the noise, recenter myself, re-engage on trips to New York for board meetings. It was the rare opportunity to just get out of the mix of it all, the noise of it all, the grind of it all, and think a little bit more clearly and differently, and be inspired by others who were also in the grind, but love to talk about it. Just it was just a great experience. And then I thought to myself, I'm headed to a conference this weekend to set up a booth, and that also seems like such a great venue for staff, myself included, to gain a little bit of self-reflection time, um, time outside of your normal environment to gain a little perspective. And yeah, you learn something, you meet some great people, you do some networking, and it's helpful from that regard. But maybe you just come back a little more refreshed, a little more centered. And I
Yeah,
really love that.
I've really encouraged people, and it for some people it's really a hard thought, but stillness or meditation time, even 5 minutes. There's a guy that I've had many conversations with, but is at the University of Wisconsin, Richie Davidson, who's been the science advisor to the Dalai Lama for the last 39 years. So, and he studied the fMRI of monks, and it's a fascinating thing. He has this great center called the Healthy Minds Institute. But one of the things he talks about is just 5 minutes of daily meditation, stillness. I mean, I love lights. I love the fact that you can have literally a cabin space, but just put some quiet headset on, not listening to anything, just to be there, to read or to think or to write. Um, I did this workshop for over many, many different times for different leaders in nonprofit, and we talked about the five sources of energy. Of course, food, the right food, what we're ingesting, is really important. Sleep, getting enough sleep, and everybody said, "Well, you don't have enough sleep," but getting good sleep. I actually measure my sleep every night, and I said whether I get a score every night to see what kind of sleep I got. And the breath, because that is the most important thing. How you breathe, what you're breathing, exercise, and then inner peace is a really important thing, and purpose. I ask people, I ask nonprofit leaders, how do you get inner peace? You share it amongst yourselves, do a breakout. What are your tricks, and how can you share what you do to get inner peace? And 80% of the people say things like this. I walk my dog every morning, and that's my moment of inner peace. And I said,
Mm.
okay, that's great. That's really nice. Do you have AirPods in? Yes. And are you listening to a podcast or a book? Yes. Okay. That is not inner peace. I'm telling you that's nice. It's a respite from other things, but that is an inner peace. Oh, why is that? Well, it is a distraction from, and distractions are not inner peace. And the screen and the things, all that stuff that's going on in your head is what you need to remove. And so everybody's like, well, what do you have to do? Do I have to be a yogi? That wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt to be a yogi. It wouldn't hurt to do a little bit of meditation. It wouldn't hurt to just go sit outside on a chair and get some vitamin D. I don't know what it is, but it's not actions and listening and with a screen in front of your face. Certainly not that. And that's one of the things that I think people misunderstand. They say, I don't have time to meditate. Do you have 5 minutes? Maybe. Really? Just maybe? And my meditation teacher says, um, do you brush your teeth every day? And I go, yeah, and at least twice a day. He goes, yeah, so brush your mind. Just brush your mind once a day. Just brush your mind
Mhm.
once a day. And that has never left me as a thought. And I think we don't brush our minds.
Good advice. Yeah. I think I was going to ask that question, what's one practical step that a leader can take? And that is the best one I can think of. But I still do have two more questions before we wrap up.
Yeah, go ahead.
And and the first one is if there's one mindset shift that you would want every nonprofit leader to take away from our conversation today, what would that be?
Yeah. It's someone famous said, you go to where it all began and it seems different. Um, and that is proximity. Uh, get out of your chair and go to the places you haven't visited, where your stakeholders, your constituents, the people that you are running an organization with or trying to serve, you're going to have a new and energized conversation that will change your point of view. You need to get out to do that, to hear how your story in your mind is not exactly right anymore because it's obsolete based on your lack of proximity. So proximity, I think, is the most important thing.
Yeah, and I think that it is such a valuable concept for people to start to incorporate into their thinking about being a leader. So it was a valuable lesson in
I
today's
mean, one of the
conversation.
things I learned from things that your organization has taught and many others is every day when I was a nonprofit leader, I had to have a list of donors I talked to on my way home because I had a very long commute. And I would call every night. I would have a list of donors just to call and say, "How you doing? What's going on? Yeah, well, yeah, we got some challenges, or we have some opportunities, but I'm calling about how you're doing, and I wanted to appreciate your gift, and blah blah blah." Those kind of things. And those were always like a big chore, a big pain in the butt, but
Right.
yielded things every day that I would also unfortunately bring back to the staff and have to tell them about different interesting things that occurred. And it's renewing from that proximity of reality. Like, I hope our donors do the right thing. I hope they come to the fundraiser. I hope they write checks in December. My God, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
If you're really doing, if even if you hate fundraising, but that's part of your job.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's practical, and you don't have to be a fundraiser to make those calls. I think every leader has constituents that they need to be close to. Again, bringing it back to proximity. So you spoke about that strategy that you had a few years ago. I'm wondering if you follow your own advice. Last question that I have for you, it is, what does it actually look like for you personally to stay grounded, energized, and connected to your purpose today?
Well, I spent a great deal of time preparing for my retirement. And people, because I've watched lots of people retire poorly, and I realized what the model of bad retirement was, and I wasn't going to be rest on the beach and leisure and play golf all the time, although I do play golf. Um, is I wanted to develop a new portfolio um, of my activities that represented my commitments and my investments of time. And I wanted them to be more aligned with people I care about, organizations I care about, missions I care about, and to really say no a lot more, to say
Yeah.
no to a lot more things, and to make space and time for writing, stillness, and literally have a discipline about those things that I would enjoy. It's not like, oh gosh, I haven't done my still. I want to do that. These are things I want to. I looked at my portfolio and said, everything in my portfolio I love. I love I have to do these things. I want to do these things. Now, my challenge is to only do them enough and do them sufficiently to leave time for other things. So I want other things as well. So that discipline and yet openness to other things has really made this. The other day, a friend of mine, my wife's, comes in and says, "John, I understand you're retired. That's so nice." And she's not interested. I know these people from 1,000 miles away, not interested in anything I'm doing. So I'm not going to go into details.
Right.
Tell me about your hobbies. Tell me about your hobbies that you're doing. Are you painting? What are you doing with your time? And so I said, well, and I have, my wife just gets very, rolls her eyes. I said, I'm doing pro bono work. Oh, so nice that you're doing pro bono work. Doesn't ask me what kind of pro bono work because not
Yeah.
interested. I said, but I also do low bono work. Oh, what's that? I'm not sure. Well, they pay me a little bit, not exactly what I'm worth, but I actually compensated for my time and what I'm doing. Oh, that's nice. And I said, I also do full bono work. My wife goes, "Oh my God, please stop talking. You're just ridiculous. You're just so ridiculous." And she goes, "What's full bono work?" Well, they pay me a lot, actually. They actually pay me a lot of money. I mean, more than sometimes I think I even deserve. And the woman, is slightly confused. Um, but my point is, in telling that silly story, because my wife said, "Never say those words in front of me again," is that I've developed a portfolio of interests and people and missions and the flexibility to make those kinds of times. I've had a diagram, Chris. You it wouldn't surprise you because I'm a little bit of a crazy person. Since my 30s, I've had a diagram of my portfolio of time. So 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and now 70s.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
and I've adjusted those portfolios to make sure I had enough time for my family. How am I going to make enough time? I don't want to be one of these dads that goes, I didn't make it to the baseball game. My kids didn't care if I was at the baseball game. I wanted to be at the baseball game.
Right.
So how do I
Right. Right.
actually make the time to do it and not say, oh, I'm so busy? So I made portfolios of time, which had to be adjusted, but they were a commitment. They were an intention. And so in this phase of my life, I don't like talking about retirement too much because when I start talking about what I'm doing, I get very excited, and then people get exhausted by what I'm saying. So I have to say both. And I'm having a lot of fun. I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
You haven't stopped planning, developing a plan and working the plan. That seems to be very true, right?
yeah, and it's been really. By the way, for those that are on the cusp of retirement or thinking about it, highly recommend it. I think it's fantastic. It's a
As long
beautiful
as you
thing.
can get some pro bono, low bono, and full bono work, right?
That doesn't hurt. That doesn't hurt at all.
Indeed, indeed. Well, John, thank you for this wonderful conversation.
Oh,
I
thank
think,
you.
oh, it was so great. And I think what stands out is that getting unstuck isn't about doing more. It's about reconnecting to what matters most and having the courage to realign with it. And also the element of proximity, which I'm going to absolutely follow up on with some sort of white paper or connect back with you to understand it even better. But for those who are listening, if you're feeling stuck, you're not alone. And more importantly, it may be the very signal that something important is ready to shift. And it's not about getting that stuckness out of the way. It's maybe sometimes going right through it, as Marcus Aurelius has told us. Um, But thank you for joining us on this podcast, Lead for Good. Please like and subscribe and jump into our other podcasts, Mastering Fundraising and the Nonprofit Edge. All of them are awesome opportunities to meet some expert in the field of nonprofit work and learn from them, as we have with John today. Share it with a colleague and fellow leader. But until next time, I hope you all continue to find ways to lead for good. Thanks all. See you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this most recent episode of Lead for Good. Our passion is helping nonprofit leaders reach their full potential as leaders, and we sincerely hope this episode has been edifying for you. Please subscribe to this podcast to not miss any of our Lead for Good conversations. We welcome your feedback, suggestions, and comments via email at hello@fulcrumleader.com. Lead for Good is a production of Fulcrum Nonprofit Leadership. Please visit us on the web at www.fulcrumleader.com. Until next time, we wish you all the best and encourage you to always lead for good.